So I wanted to, yes, I'm still a student at College for Creative Studies. I graduate in December. A couple of my classmates are in here, and a couple of my classmates were actually with me when I started this project. It was a group project, actually. One of the students that was on my team is right here in this room. But it really was one of these, it was product design 101, and we get in, and it's a studio class that's sponsored by a humanitarian group that comes in and says, design to fill a need, which is probably the largest, most all-encompassing thing that you could ever try to tackle, because there are just this innumerous number of needs that you could fill. And to try to think of one of them is insane. And as a college student, I was like, okay, you know, I have ramen, and I have a roof over my head, so basically all my needs are being met. So anything beyond that, I should probably go out and find some other people to talk to. And so it was that one class that started this whole, I call it a studio project gone awry, and became a business before I even recognized what was happening. But before I get into that, I want you all, because this centers around homelessness in Detroit, and I am from Detroit, I love this city, and I live here now, and I plan on spending a lot of time here for my future. But I want all of you to imagine and close your eyes and picture the coldest day you've ever experienced. And I know that most of you are from this area, and that is not hard. I want you to imagine going from your house, and you're sprinting to your car, and it is snowing, and it is feels like -50. And you stumble with your keys, and you don't get it into the lock. But I want you now to take away your house, to take away that car, to take away your friends' houses, your neighbors' houses, your family's places, all those fallback plans that you had in mind, that if you couldn't go back home, where would you go, and what would you do? Now you can open your eyes. I don't want anybody falling asleep on me. So now imagine that. How would you feel? Where would you go, and what would you do? And what would you do when people refuse to acknowledge you as a human being on the streets? For certain reasons that are up to each and every one of them, that you begin to fade into the very background. That is a huge issue in Detroit. When Design to Fill a Need came up, I thought, okay, I'm from Detroit. You can see it. You know there's an epidemic. You know there's a huge issue that needs to be tackled somehow. So I, naively enough, went to Neighborhood Service Organization, which is on 3rd and MLK, and it's a shelter. And 30 people get to sit in front of chairs for 8 hours before they get booted out for the next group. So I went there at 8 o'clock at night with my grandfather and an idea that I would talk to them to help me design a project. And literally a guy dressed like a linebacker with a splint on his arm because he had just gotten in a fight breaking it up earlier that day, pushes me in front of the crowd, turns off the television, and says, "Good luck, you're going to need it." And all you could hear for 10 minutes was people swearing at me. A woman actually came up to me, said to my face, "If you want to help us turn our television back on." There was far more adjectives in there than what I'm giving you right now. But it was that moment that started the project. And I didn't go there coming in and saying, "I'm going to help you. I am your salvation. I know you need help because obviously you don't know what you're doing because you're homeless." That's the biggest misconception anybody can make about another human being. Like I said, you can imagine yourself in that situation. How would you like if somebody treated you less than human and thought that they could save you, that you had done something wrong to get yourself in that position? So I went in there and basically said, "I need your help to do something. I'm a lowly college student. Help me pass this class and help me finish this project." And I spent 3 times a week, every week, for 5 months working on this coat. Semester is only 3 months long. I spent a little bit of extra time at the end there. And it really helped me realize this right here. There are 20,000 counted homeless in Detroit and 36,000 estimated. And when you get that many people, that's 1 in 42 people in the city of Detroit don't have a place to go. And when you have that, you get situations like this, and situations where there are playgrounds draped in clothes and tarps made into makeshift shelters and houses. This is literally 20 yards away from that shelter I was telling you about. Somebody was sleeping 20 feet away from a shelter that was giving them all of their services for free. And that was my biggest question. Why would you do that? Why would you bear the elements and face, actually one of these, the playground itself was burned down a week later. Why would you put yourself out there like that? Instead of going somewhere that's offering to help you for free. And that is what they helped me answer over time. I was designing a product, but it turned out to be designing for an emotion. Because what fuels everybody is pride. Every single person in here, every single person on the street, every single person, period, wants to be able to provide for themselves. Hands down. That's it. That is our main drive in life. We want bigger things, we want better things, so we could get them for ourselves. And that is what everyone does. And a lot of people on the streets do as well. They have nowhere else to go. They are tired of having to rely on the whims of others for everything. Like I said, what would you do if everything else you had was gone? All of your money, your savings. Now you have to go to a soup kitchen. What if that person doesn't like you? What if you don't like them? Would you want to rely on everybody else for everything in your daily life? No. This is what happens. And this is what leads to hypothermia and death. And there's a lot of individuals on the streets right now that are there because they are mentally handicapped, and most of the mental health hospitals shut down over the past 20 years. So a good percentage of the individuals that I met while I was on the streets before, during this project, and after were bipolar, schizophrenic. These individuals were never meant to fend for themselves, but they were now doing it on the streets. And that's when it, like I said, spiraled out of control into something I didn't really recognize at the time. And that's when literally I went away for a summer. What was I supposed to do after the semester was over? I got a grade. What was I supposed to do after designing 5 coats with the individuals I met at NSO? The first one looked like Frankenstein. It was literally 25 pounds. It was made from plastic bags, recycled wool blankets, recycled wool coats. 30 pounds, looked like Frankenstein. It was black, it was heavy. I brought it to them the first day after spending 60 hours learning how to sew with my mother to produce that coat. Presented it to them, held it up, was like, oh, look what I made for you, like a kid with a macaroni noodle drawing, and said, here it is. After the smiles wore off, they looked at me and said, well, you know, it looks like a body bag. I had just spent 80 hours failing hard and fast and quickly. Obviously, I went back and designed, I think it was like 3 more with them, making sure it worked. And then what was I supposed to do after the semester was over? Say, all right, peace out, guys. You know, I got a good grade. I'll talk to you eventually. I continued. I did another coat as soon as the semester was over because people were asking me, well, when are we going to get this for ourselves? So 3 months go by, I've developed this thing even more and more and more, and my sewing skills have not gotten any better or any quicker, and it really hasn't gotten, it's gotten a little bit prettier and a little bit lighter. And a woman at NSO comes up to me and yells at me, is screaming at me because, like what happens with most people on the street, they fade into the background and no one acknowledges that they're there, or that they are human beings, or that they are equals. And so she is screaming at me, expecting that I'm going to ignore her or send somebody else to like pull her back. But she is saying your coat doesn't matter, what you're doing doesn't matter, what we need are jobs, and if you can't do that, why are you doing this, period? What's the point? She was just yelling at me. And I was like, makes sense. What am I supposed to do? Go hole myself up in my basement with my mom making these for the rest of my life for weeks on end, just making 5 or 6 poorly made coats? And that's when it, like I said, became something I didn't even recognize at the time. I joined up with a shelter, started hiring women from that shelter. 3, I think it was 2 to start, Alicia and Signoria. One was in prison for 10 years and the other has 3 kids. Hired them in December. And it wasn't until June when Alicia was asking me, so when am I going to get a raise? When am I going to get health care benefits? When am I going to get a manager's position? That I realized, oh my God, I had been doing this during school, after school hours, constantly while I was still studying without understanding why, without understanding the core reason why I was continuing with this through everything. And that was, oh my God, somebody is depending on me for their livelihood, depending on a 22-year-old college student for their livelihood. And at that time, what really clicked was when Alicia, who has 3 kids, and this is Sig, by the way, Alicia, she has 3 kids. Her youngest son is 6. His name is Tabion. They have all moved out of the shelter entirely. They have their own apartment building. They have their own apartment. And Tabion is now learning Japanese at a charter school. And it is that one thing that proved that my coat, in the end, really doesn't, it matters, but the core of it is that we are giving jobs and giving a second chance to women that had felonies on their record. That I was even scared of, I'm going to graduate in December. If I did not have this, I would be worried about the job market. What is somebody supposed to do when they haven't had experience for 20 years or an updated resume? That alone made it worth making it into a business, trying to make it work and sucking it up and understanding that I don't know everything, but if I surround myself with enough people that do, I'd be able to do this. We produced 75 the first round in a closet with 2 women and 3 machines. We got them out. We've distributed 50, 25 within Detroit, and then the other 25 throughout the U.S. The Tenderloin District in San Francisco, New Orleans, Chicago, Boston, handing out 2 or 3 at a time, and actually 2 to Occupy Wall Street last week. And this is the first woman to have ever received a coat. Her name is Michelle, and I show you this to really, 1, look how fashionable the coat is, and 2, look at the image in the back. Look at that house. Now, she is paying rent to live in that house. There's a huge epidemic in Detroit of, there are 36,000 estimated homeless individuals in the city. There is 64,000 abandoned buildings. That's over 1 building per person. And they do not look as extreme as this, but there are a lot of places that don't have windows, that don't have doors, that don't have heat, that don't have electricity, that, like I said, the mentally handicapped or disabled are paying rent to live in. That somebody has come along, claimed it, put maybe a space heater in it, which we haven't seen. But they're living in. And she deems herself, I'm not homeless, I have a place to live. That was the first woman to ever receive a coat. And that was the big hurdle on getting this off the ground is, how do we distribute this? How do we do this? I can't judge every single person because she's going to tell me she's not homeless. So that's when we're joining up with every different organization saying, it's for you to every soup kitchen, every church saying, here are coats. And you have the street cred. I was known as the crazy coat lady, the crazy white girl, the crazy white coat lady in the NSO shelter. But beyond that, I don't have the connection, the trust, the street cred with anybody else beyond that 3-block radius. Because that took months. Like I said, I spent 5 months just with them. And there are organizations out there that spend that much time with each separate area of Detroit and each separate area of the U.S. And so now this was taken on my phone. So Alicia and 2 other women as of this week are now working in this building. I wanted to show you the before picture. Some of you may know Phil Cooley. I believe you had some of his food today, Slows. Some of the barbecue. Well, the barbecue guy, also buys and rehabs buildings. So he recently purchased a 43,000 square foot building in Detroit for $100,000. And people like myself and a few other individuals from Brooklyn, we have a botanist from Harvard, we have a few letterpress guys, we have a dance collective, have all moved into this building. And our main objective, we don't pay rent. We have kids from the Detroit Public Schools come in for 8 hours a month and we teach. This is what it looked like before. I cannot wait to show the after. We had to rip up the tile floors, pull down the drop ceiling, power wash 60 years worth of tobacco off of a concrete ceiling in the middle of summer. And this is where we're working. And at this point, I didn't expect I'd be doing this. I had been in denial until that moment I told you about. And now, we're looking to hire 25 women over the next 3 years, start stockpiling with the Red Cross and Goodwill for disaster relief, as well as open it up to the public so that when you buy a coat, it is also directing a coat to a homeless individual anywhere in the world you want it to go. We've already started working with Russia and Australia on that. So that's, and I would like, I'm going to call a victim to the stage to try on one of the coats. If you don't mind, if anybody wants to volunteer, or should I just go directly for next top model over there? Sam. Anybody wants to try this on? So this is the first one we did. This is made by Alicia. And the next one's actually coming out next week, Monday. All right. Just don't you strut it. This may be a little big.
Did it come in short?
It doesn't come in short. It's regular sizes. This one's a little big. So this is sized from a extra small to a triple XL. All right, so this is it as a sleeping bag if you want to lay down. It weighs a little less than 1 pound because of the Tyvek and the quilted nylon interior. And takes, in the beginning, took 3 hours, and it can be made for probably about 30 minutes. Pull the sleeves in, pull the sleeves in. Pull your sleeves in. Pull it into the coat. Yep. That becomes a pillow. There you go. And that way you can breathe. If anybody else wants to get in. All right, now wrap the scarf above your head. Well, you get the idea. We did this. I tied it out with 5 of my friends in 17-degree weather in the middle of a parking lot. There's a video. It looks like all of us rolling around in white sausages, but whatever. It's a great, and we were fine. And the next one's even better. So, thank you.
I can't hear you.
You can? There's so much. We're getting rid of the crinkling.